You've spent years running from your unhappiness, telling yourself that if you just ignore it, it'll eventually go away. But what if the opposite is actually true? And what if the reason it keeps haunting you is because you've never truly faced it? Every time you try to bury it, it only grows louder, more demanding. What if the key to freedom isn't escaping it, but stepping right into it? This may sound counterintuitive, but I promise confronting your unhappiness head-on could be the game changer you've been looking for. Curious? Let's dig in. If you're truly committed to your personal growth, now's the perfect moment to take action. Subscribe to our channel Motivation Basics and like this video if you're committed to improve every day. Don't keep this to yourself and share it with someone who's ready to break through their own barriers today. Let's stop talking and start doing this together. I've been there. You probably have too. Maybe you're in the midst of a breakup, a job you despise, or just a nagging feeling of something's off. Instead of confronting these feelings, we dive into work, or worse, mindlessly scroll through social media. We avoid facing that deep, unsettling feeling of unhappiness. Let me tell you something. Ignoring your unhappiness won't make it go away. It only amplifies it. You may think you're running from it, but it's like trying to outrun your own shadow. It's always there, waiting for you to face it. Let's take Sarah. She was living what many would consider the perfect life. A successful career, a happy relationship, a picture, perfect house. But deep inside, Sarah was miserable. She ignored it for years, telling herself, "I should be happy. I have everything anyone could want." But the more she pushed down those feelings, the heavier they became. Eventually, it all came crashing down. Her job started to feel suffocating. Her relationship began to crumble, and her body started protesting. Sarah finally realized something she had been refusing to admit. The unhappiness she had been ignoring had been quietly eroding everything she valued. The lesson: denying your feelings doesn't free you, it traps you. You can only move forward by first accepting where you are. So why do we keep running? Why does unhappiness feel so unbearable that we'd rather avoid it at all costs? The answer is simple. We're afraid of facing that raw emotion. Afraid of facing that raw emotion because it threatens our sense of control. And yet, here's where it gets controversial. Most of us have been taught that unhappiness is something we need to get rid of at all costs. From the moment we were kids, we've been conditioned to believe that bad feelings are a sign of weakness. Think about it. When was the last time someone told you to sit in your unhappiness, to befriend it? Likely never. Eckhart Tolle, in his book, The Power of Now, teaches that the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation but your thoughts about it. This insight is a game changer. We spend so much time judging our unhappiness, making it worse with thoughts like "I shouldn't feel this way," or "I need to get over it." What if instead we simply allowed the unhappiness to exist without judgment? Tolle encourages us to recognize that our emotions are not us. They are merely passing experiences. When we step back from our emotions, we stop being consumed by them. What if you could observe your unhappiness from a place of awareness, without the need to change it? We don't like being uncomfortable, but what if discomfort isn't the enemy? What if discomfort is the very thing that leads us to growth, understanding, and ultimately happiness? I remember a period in my life when I felt completely lost. I hated my job. I had just gone through a difficult breakup, and I was questioning everything. I did everything I could to avoid those feelings, going out, drinking, keeping busy. But nothing worked, drinking, keeping busy. It was like the more I resisted, the more I was weighed down. And then, in one quiet moment, it hit me. The only way out was through. This is where it gets real. I'm not asking you to pretend you're happy. I'm not suggesting that you force a smile and ignore your pain. What I'm proposing is that you allow yourself to feel what you're feeling. Without shame, without shame, without shame, without guilt, without rushing to fix it. I'm asking you to embrace your unhappiness, not as a flaw or weakness, but as a part of your human experience. I know, it sounds strange. But think about this: when you allow yourself to feel the pain, the sadness, the anger, you no longer give it power over you. Instead, you own it. You recognize it as a visitor, one that has come and will eventually leave. Eckhart Tolle talks about the importance of being present in his book A New Earth, saying, "The more you are focused on time, past and future, the more you miss the present moment." This insight can shift your entire perspective on unhappiness. When you stop worrying about when the unhappiness will end or what caused it, you can embrace the present moment without resistance. Instead of waiting for unhappiness to end, let it be, knowing it is just another transient emotion. When you allow your feelings to be what they are, without attaching a story or expectation, you experience the freedom that Tolle speaks of. Here's an example. Jason had always been the life of the party. Outgoing, charming, always making others laugh. But beneath the surface, he was deeply unhappy. He didn't want to admit it because he was afraid of what others would think. He pushed his feelings down with alcohol, distracting himself with friends and work. But one day, during a rare, quiet moment, Jason decided to confront his unhappiness head on. He sat in his room, in silence, and simply let the sadness wash over him. It was uncomfortable, even painful, but in that moment, he realized something important. That sadness wasn't him. It was just a feeling, a temporary visitor. Acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It means acknowledging reality. When you accept your unhappiness, you stop fighting against it. You stop using all that energy to resist, and instead, you create space for healing. It's not about fixing anything. It's about allowing your feelings to exist without judgment. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that you should wallow in misery. I'm not encouraging you to stay stuck in a perpetual state of unhappiness. What I am saying is that you need to stop rejecting the parts of yourself that are hurting. When you accept your pain, you create the possibility for transformation. Take Emma, for instance. She'd been struggling with depression for years, but she was always trying to push through it. She went to therapy, tried medication, and followed every piece of advice she could find, but nothing seemed to work. One day, she had an epiphany. Instead of forcing herself to feel better, she decided to simply sit with her sadness. For the first time in years, she didn't try to change it. She let it be, and something unexpected happened. Her depression started to lose its grip on her. Acceptance isn't about giving in. It's about giving in to the reality of the moment so that you can move forward. Here's the truth. Happiness isn't a constant. It's fleeting, momentary. The idea that we can be happy all the time is a fantasy we've been sold. Life is filled with ebbs and flows, and the key to true happiness lies not in chasing the highs, but in learning how to navigate the lows. But surrendering to unhappiness doesn't mean giving up on your dreams or settling for a life of despair. It means letting go of the belief that you can control everything. It means trusting that no matter how hard it gets, you are capable of handling it. I'll share a personal story. During one of the toughest years of my life, I hit rock bottom. I was struggling financially, emotionally, and spiritually. Every plan I had fell apart, and for the first time in my life, I felt completely out of control. It was terrifying. But there, in that place of complete surrender, I realized something powerful. I had to trust the process. I had to stop fighting against my circumstances and accept where I was. Once I stopped resisting my unhappiness, I found a deep sense of peace. Not a perfect, fleeting happiness, but a peaceful acceptance of whatever came my way. And that peace was far more powerful than any happiness I could have chased. By now, you might be wondering, if I accept my unhappiness, does that mean I'll be happy forever? No, it doesn't work that way. Life will still bring challenges. There will be moments of sadness, frustration, and pain. But here's the difference. When you accept those moments without resistance, you free yourself from their control. You no longer let them define you. True happiness isn't found in the absence of unhappiness. It's found in the ability to embrace both, the joy and the sorrow, and find peace within yourself, regardless of the external circumstances. So, here's your challenge. For the next week, whenever you feel unhappy, instead of running, embrace it. Sit with it. Feel it fully. And then watch how it begins to shift. Watch how it begins to shift. Watch how your relationship with your emotions transforms. And when you come out on the other side, you'll find that you've gained something far more valuable than fleeting happiness. You've gained inner peace. When we sit with our unhappiness, we confront something far deeper than just the feeling itself. We confront ourselves. We confront ourselves. For many, this is the most terrifying part of the process. We fear what we might find when we turn inward. Truth is, in the depths of our unhappiness, we often meet parts of ourselves we've been avoiding. But this confrontation isn't a sign of weakness or failure. It's an invitation to heal. What if the most painful parts of you are the very pieces that need your love and attention? By facing them, we not only begin to understand ourselves better, but we also open the door to transforming that pain into growth. It's not about being perfect, it's about being real with yourself. And that, my friend, is where true change begins. This is something Eckhart Tolle touches on in The Power of Now, where he explains that our pain often comes from resisting the present moment, and that by allowing ourselves to fully experience the now, including the difficult emotions, we begin to let go of the emotions. We begin to let go of the grip that pain holds over us. Tolle writes, "Whatever you think the world is withholding from you, you are withholding from the world." This idea resonates deeply with the process of sitting with our unhappiness, as it's through embracing our emotions that we can ultimately open ourselves up to healing. By acknowledging our emotions, without judgment or resistance, we make room for true transformation. Once we start to accept our unhappiness, something incredible happens. We let go of the need to control everything. Letting go doesn't mean giving up. It means surrendering the idea that we can dictate every aspect of our lives. We begin to realize that we don't have to have it all figured out. It's okay to not have all the answers, to not know exactly where you're headed, or to not always feel on top of the world. This realization is incredibly freeing. You stop chasing after happiness like a mirage in the desert, and instead you find contentment in knowing that whatever happens, you will be okay. Life's unpredictability becomes less of a burden and more of an opportunity to trust in the process. Tolle emphasizes this power of surrender in A New Earth, where he talks about the art of allowing. When we stop trying to force outcomes and instead allow ourselves to simply be with life as it is, we open the door to acceptance and peace. He states, "Surrender is the simple but profound wisdom of yielding to rather than opposing the flow of life. When we let go of our need to control, we learn to trust the flow of life and find ourselves supported by it." In the face of unhappiness, we also build resilience. Think about it. How many times have you faced challenges that, in hindsight, shaped you into the person you are today? By accepting your unhappiness rather than running from it, you start to build mental and emotional strength. Each time you sit with discomfort and allow it to move through you, you become less afraid of it. You begin to trust yourself more. Life's curveballs no longer seem as overwhelming because you've learned how to ride the waves rather than resist them. This resilience doesn't happen overnight, but with every small step you take toward acceptance, you grow stronger and more capable of handling whatever life throws your way. As you begin to accept unhappiness, you'll notice a subtle shift in how you experience life. The chaos, the noise, the constant need to do more, it all starts to fade. Instead, you find a quiet strength in peace. It's not the kind of peace that comes from external circumstances or achievements. It's a peace that comes from within. It's knowing that, no matter how messy life gets, you have the tools to navigate it. When you no longer fight against your unhappiness, You become anchored in a calm that nothing can take away. You realize that peace isn't the absence of struggle. It's the ability to hold your ground while life continues to move around you. Eckhart Tolle reminds us in The Power of Now that the past has no power over the present moment. The key to peace lies in our ability to remain present in the face of all that life presents, including the discomfort of unhappiness. When we embrace the present as it is, without resistance, we find that we are no longer defined by our past, nor are we imprisoned by our future expectations. We learn to live fully in the now, where peace is always available, even in the midst of turmoil. Time to stop running from your unhappiness. It's time to stop pretending that everything is okay when it's not. Only by accepting where you are, no matter how painful or uncomfortable, can you move forward to a life of true peace and ultimately happiness. Let go of the need to constantly feel good. Embrace the full spectrum of your human experience. And remember, happiness isn't something you find by chasing it. It's something you uncover when you stop running from what's real. By embracing your unhappiness, you tap into a deeper, more lasting sense of peace, a peace that Eckhart Tolle suggests is always within reach once we let go of resistance. As he so beautifully writes in A New Earth, to live in the present moment is to be free from the past, and free from the past, and free from the future. You are free, and in that freedom is true happiness. Stop wasting time and make every moment count in your life. Subscribe to Motivation Basics for daily motivational videos on personal growth. Show your commitment by liking the video and commenting the word GROW. Be sure to share it with someone who needs to slow down in life. We're in this together.